For the first time in the 14-year history of efforts to restore spring Chinook runs in the upper Deschutes Basin, this rotary fish trap in the Metolius River is catching quantities of juvenile salmon. Why do the fish go into the trap? I mean, it's a very visual thing.
Yeah, they don't know. Basically, they don't know any better. So the idea is that the cone, you think of it as a whale gulping a bunch of fish, right? So it's gulping water, the fish are in that water column, and they're not even aware that they're in it. By the time they realize that they're inside something they can't get out of, they're kind of stuck there, and then just sort of transition into the live box.
Biologists with Portland General Electric and the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs check the trap every morning. They use a boat to reach the trap in the middle of the river, then bring the captured fish back in buckets for identification and processing.
Pull the fish out of the bucket, you put them in the anesthetic solution. From there, they tend to relax and calm down for their own benefit, so you can handle them one by one. And from there, you can look to see if they have that maxillary clip, so you can identify hatchery versus naturally reared. And then you can also look at them and identify them to species. So you could catch a whitefish, you could catch a trout, you could catch a bull trout. Individual markings for individual species are all identified at that point. We have a computer set up to collect data that is not pit tag related, and then we have pit tags that get put into fish as well.
2 years ago, more than 400 hatchery-raised adult Chinook salmon returned from the ocean to the Pelton-Round Butte Hydroelectric Complex. 200 of those ripe and ready to spawn fish were released into the upper Metolius River to procreate. And now there's proof.
Yeah, any fish is a tremendous achievement at this point. This would be the first time that we have natural production from adults that spawned in the tributary, then in turn produced eggs. Those eggs hatched out, produced fry, they overwintered, they got older, they got bigger, and then eventually they would become what we call smolts, which would transform into an ocean-going fish, same fish, enter the salt water and survive that. These are pretty special fish. They go, the metamorphosis to that stage is incredible. It's very taxing. But right now they're still obviously in fresh water and they're making their way downstream.
Salmon have likely been spawning in the Metolius for several years, but not enough to restore self-sustaining and harvestable numbers of spring Chinook. This year's run of ocean-going juvenile Chinook represents real progress toward that goal.
This is a small part in a very large story, right? These fish still need to go down the Deschutes, and down the Columbia, and through Bonneville Dam, and out in the ocean, and then come back. So there's a lot of moving parts, and this is the kind of the beginning small part of that process. It's exciting. It's what I got into this business for. It's a lot of fun.
On the day we visited, 7 smolts were in the trap. 6 were identified as hatchery fish, the 7th a natural fish. The rotary screw trap catches approximately 12% of the fish passing downstream. So on this day, biologists estimate about 80 smolts passed through. The downstream migration lasts for about 3 months.
I can't convey enough to you what a big deal it is to have these naturally produced, naturally reared smolts moving down the stream that hasn't happened in over 50 years in this system. Is an incredible thing.
It is permissible to fish around the trap, which happens to be smack dab in the middle of a popular fishing hole near Monte Campground. If you snag the trap with your lure or fly, break your line, because the trap is off limits to everyone except biologists. Fishing on the Metolius River is entirely catch and release with flies and lures only. From the Metolius River, I'm Brooks Snavely for The Great Outdoors.